All right. So good afternoon, and we this is a special one. Obviously, a special edition of Let's Talk Money. Why it's special is that it's being held on Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas to all of you. And Santa obviously gets a lot of gifts along. This time, the gift that we are talking about is not a physical gift in terms of consumption, but actually it is the gift of goodness. It is a gift of savings. If you can save your taxes, if you can manage your money better, I think we feel that is a gift which goes beyond, an instant gratification gift of buying a toy or a chocolate or having a drink or, buying a new shirt or a pullover. So I think to that extent, the intent of doing it on a Christmas day is that this time we give back a gift which is more fulfilling, more promising, has a longer tail. So I'm actually very, very pleased to have with us the founder of Quico, Vishwajit, an extremely passionate guy, specifically focused on making sure that in India, all of us not just get up and file our taxes, but I think helping improve the experience of this whole filing process. And If one thing that we can all learn from the world of startup is design thinking, and that design thinking actually makes all of us focus on adoption of a product and the consumer journey to say what are the steps involved in buying a product or consuming a product or a service. And I think if anything, if governments want to really improve their tax to GDP ratio and get more Indians to file taxes, apart from just tinkering with rates and easing maybe slabs, I think one very important area of focus has to be how do we make sure that the process of filing is easier, how it is less cumbersome. And I think that is where not everything can be done by the government. And I think that is where entrepreneurs like Vishwajit and firms like Quico can play a landscape role. So welcome, Vishwajit, for that long introduction.
No, absolutely, Samant. Let me put it out there. I hate taxes as much as everyone else, but it's one of those necessary evils, right? I mean, it's a very important part of a functional democracy. We all have to do our bit. Of course, I mean, the point you made across is quite prevalent, right? That point of view that we have to have a broader tax base and smaller tax rates, lower tax rates. That's how Europe looks at it. That's how America looks at it. I think that's how we should look at it as well. And the budget that the finance minister announced this year kind of was a step in that direction, right? Because tax code overpass so many years has become so complicated. Introducing, let's accept it, right? There are constituencies and there are different governments who try to help different constituencies, and hence the tax code had become very complicated. What I would have loved to see is, finance minister take a bold step in that direction. Now we are stuck with old and new regime, which introduces more confusion and conundrum. So we're going to talk about all of that. Merry Christmas to everyone who is joining, anybody who's going to listen in later. So you're going to have some interesting discussion around taxes. Usually taxes are taboo. It's not a coffee table discussion, but hopefully we'll try to make it a little more interesting with all the anecdotes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think we are going to maybe skip over the fact as to why taxes are necessary. And I think that is a very textbook discussion to say they are needed for government to do what they need to do. But I think I want to really start by asking you where, you started the discussion saying, even I hate taxes. I mean, from your perspective, what is it that makes taxes something that scares people? Why that big uh, negative connotation around taxes? Is it only to do with the fact that you have to give money? Because I mean, you pay money for, let's say, your electricity, your water, you pay road tax, you pay whatever. So the fact of the matter is, why is this big negative association with taxes?
No, I think anybody who lends their hands into your pocket, you're gonna hate them, right? So that's definitely one very important reason why people don't like taxes. Um, we, I think fundamentally reason people more than hate taxes, people are scared of taxes, right? Because it's such a black box for a lot of us. Fortunately, Samant, you and I, we've been in fintech space. We understand numbers to an extent, right? But for a lot of my friends who are doctors, designers, tech consultants, taxes is a very distant thought. Um, what I think fundamentally is missing is financial education in our academics. We don't teach it to our kids, right? So I think that education would really help people understand the importance of, I think taxes fall under a larger umbrella of personal financial planning,
Right.
which is the space that we both operate in. And I think we need to teach personal financial planning because remember, I mean, India used to be a defined benefits
Yeah.
system, right?
Yeah.
Parents used to get pensions,
Right.
and not anymore. We are just like any other country. Unfortunately, people in America have social security. We don't,
Yeah.
right? So we have to save for retirement. We have to save for our life's goals. I think we need to understand taxes more so, because at the end of the day, it's summary of our financial year, right? It helps us reflect on what our incomings and outgoings are, and how can we do better next year.
No, I think very well put, and I must kind of second that thought that you made, and I've spoken about this extensively. That as a nation, when you go back to our education system, we are spending more than enough time, inordinate amount of time on teaching physics, chemistry, math, biology,
Right.
and getting people to so-called become self-sufficient and be able to get jobs and sustain themselves.
Right.
But I think it is, and we are on the other side. I mean, it is scary to see that we run this program, Let's Talk Money, has two sides to it. One is these online sessions, discussions, and also then we do financial wellness camp at organizations, which are physical sessions.
Right.
And I can't tell you that when I meet some of these young guys who have just joined, bright engineers, MBAs, who've just joined their first jobs, making decent amount of money. But this whole concept of literacy and financial literacy, we seem to be so financially illiterate that we're not able to understand basic concepts of managing money. And I think that is something, in fact, we had made a representation to CBSE many years ago when I was on
Right.
the other side, on the asset management industry, to say that you need to change the curriculum, add something to inculcate these basic habits of financial planning. Planning is, I think, a very distant concept. Just the basic financial tools and concepts to be able to make them ready to manage money. So yeah, it's a very, very important point that you make.
With new
Sorry.
education policy and more focus towards learning by experiences, is I think if implemented correctly, is the right way to go about it, which is why I really look forward to it. And hopefully will introduce more hands-on courses which teach you life skills
Okay.
more than academic skills. I think is it I don't think it can substitute physics, chemistry, but I think it definitely needs to be given enough importance.
So coming back, I think now that we have kind of articulated the problem around taxes and their understanding, would love to know more about Quico in terms of what is the role that Quico is playing and how is it playing that role in terms of making that whole journey and that proposition simple.
No, absolutely. So, Samant, we are bunch of technologists at heart, right? I mean, I come from computer science background. And the great thing about it is it gives us an outsider perspective when we started solving taxes, right? So what we realize is usually at the end of year, you go to someone or some platform or some website to file your taxes. And we thought that was the fundamental problem because it was already too late. Because usually 70% of income tax returns in India get filed in last few weeks.
Yeah.
So you are essentially running like headless chicken, just trying to get
Yeah.
to that finish line, right? What we realize very soon is we need to engage our audiences sooner, right? We need to take our products to them. I think which is why, and which is something I think you also believe in very strongly, and which is why we have partnered, right? So our objective is to go integrate ourselves, if you may say, into banks and brokerages and investment platforms in India, right? Because that's where your data lies, right? Your data about your incomes lie within your HRMS systems, your data about your if you're running a small business, it lies with your bank. If you're doing trading, investing in securities market, then the data lies with your brokerage or investment platform. Is go integrate into those platforms and create seamless, frictionless journeys through which you can easily come and do your taxes on Quaco's platform. And that has been a really satisfying experience, because now we have customers who not only file return with us, towards the end of the season, we see people filing returns sooner because of less friction, right? Where they, within their brokerage, they see how Quico calculates their P&L, or within their investment platform, they see what their post-tax returns. So is the right way to go about it. That's the journey we are on. So that essentially covers what Quico is trying to do.
No, fantastic, fantastic. And I think I must also highlight here, which is an important point about the partnership between Squirrel and Quico. And there is that commonality in thought process to play the ecosystem route to growth, rather than trying to go it alone and saying we will solve this problem all by ourselves. I think the important thing is to build winnable partnerships such that you can reach out to audiences across. Now, whether it is with us or banks or NBFCs like you talked about, or with the brokerage platforms, the intent is to build winnable partnerships. And I think that's playing out both ways on your side as well. And that's the philosophy that we've had in terms of taking.
Absolutely. I mean, we get this question quite frequently from our customers that since you have looked at my income tax return, why don't you help me do better investing, better tax planning?
Right.
And I think we are not qualified to do that. I think there are a ton of great platforms like you guys who do much better job at visualizing and executing financial goal-based planning journeys, right? But what we can do is, with your consent, create journeys where you can use that data and see how you can use the data to your advantage.
Right.
Be more tax efficient next year.
Right.
Right? Because we all know what a fantastic concept is compounding, and while
Right.
you invest and you save taxes, there's nothing like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, on that note, I think we must also spend a couple of minutes highlighting that the big gift, the Santa's gift, if we were to talk about today, is that where else will you find an opportunity that gives you this double big Santa bonus to say that if you invest for your own future, right, I will also give you a tax break in this financial year. And that money will also then be invested in capital markets and has a fair chance to grow because of the fact that it is going to be locked in for 3 years. So we've seen that amongst all the tax saving options under Section 80C, which is capped at 150,000, amongst all the options, which has a PPF, which has insurance allowances, which has NPS now, which has stuff like your kids school fees and so on and so forth.
Right.
But even if you do all that, the best performing tax saving opportunity has been the equity linked saving schemes. I mean, where will you get an opportunity to invest in the capital markets in a country, get a tax break on day zero, and also the long-term capital gains has been introduced on equity. But I would still say that that's considering our personal tax rates and the fact that it is a capital gains, that means you're going to pay a small 15% out of your gains, is not a large capital gain when you especially compare it with other mature markets, developed markets. So I just feel that that's such a large boon for investors in our country, and I think it is our both our responsibilities to make sure that customers know about it and take full advantage of it.
Right, and I think that has been changing. I mean, what we see more frequently now is people taking advantage of ELSS mutual funds and schemes like NPS, right? If you want to
Yeah,
go down that route,
absolutely.
it also
Yeah,
has a huge equity component to it.
absolutely.
Because FD rates have gone so low,
Yeah.
is what has forced a lot of youngsters like us to look elsewhere, right? Because I mean, we can't beat inflation with FD interest rates anymore or PPF interest rates anymore. The other important thing, Samat, I see happening is, with the introduction of a new regime, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of time, uh, we up until now we were doing investing thinking taxes in mind, right? And
Yeah.
with perspective objective of saving taxes, where you have very limited choices. But now with new regime, if you really know what your financial goals are, and if you really want to take charge of it, then you can rather be, investing into. There are a ton of other mutual fund opportunities. I mean, I see on your platform there are, apart from tax saving mutual funds, there are other financial goals related mutual funds that you could invest in. There are a lot of other kind of investment opportunities emerging, including ETFs. So I think I get this question asked very frequently, that shall I stick to what I know, old regime, and continue to take advantage of that 1,50,000 deduction under Chapter 6A, or shall I go my way and opt for new regime and figure out how I want to do investing? And I think the choice is individually yours, right? So if you've been enrolled in a SIP, if you've been investing, if you've been doing tax saving through ELSS fund, then definitely, I mean, old regime is gonna give you that certainty. It's very well defined. If you think that you're gonna earn better returns by investing yourself into equity markets or financial instruments, then of course new regime offers you that opportunity. We know options are always good, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that is very important thing to remember.
No, I agree that while I may have my own opinion about this could have been done structurally in a better manner and not, in this form of having a new and a old, but the intent, or at least the outcome of this, being that now people have that menu in front of them to choose, to say
Exactly.
that, I can play the book the way I want it. I think is a definitely a big checkbox in favor of the consumers. And the other important a point that you also made is the fact that now you have to move away and look at investing not just as a byproduct of tax saving. I think,
Exactly.
I mean, if I give you the statistics of mutual fund industry, I don't know if you're aware that if you look at the folios, scheme folios, you will be amazed to know that the number one category of folios in the industry is tax saving,
Right.
which just goes to say that retail investors are coming in under the garb of tax saving and doing this investing. And I think it is
Right.
high time that the product should also then stand on its own 2 feet and say that this is, it delivers, or it has to be used for savings, or goal based, or for retirement planning, or for whatever, just wealth creation as well. So yeah, point very, very well made. But I'm going to, given your vantage of the depth that you know of, both from the tech side on tax filing and also from the domain of tax filing, if I was a newbie, right, if I had started my career this year, actually this year is a bad one. Corona has taken away quite a lot of Mickey out of everyone. But let's say if I was somebody who started my job in the last couple of years, or I'm somebody who's filing my returns for the first time, right? What are the
Right.
3, 4, 5 things that you would want to highlight to them? What is it that you would, or let's say of the 5 things that you want to give to somebody as advice who's filing returns for the first time?
See, number one thing is, start early. I think that's very important. That's number one financial education principle, right? So if you start at age 23 versus if you start saving at age 30, it's going to have a huge impact on your corpus when
Right.
you need to tap into that right capital that you saved. So starting early and financially aware, if you know well about your financial well-being, right? So What we see these days is I mean, we saw tremendous market volatilities because of coronavirus crisis, and we saw a ton of youngsters participating in securities market. But at the same time, Samant, you and I know very well. I mean, we've been through some of the cycles, and a lot of time participating in financial markets without understanding the consequences as a weapon of mass wealth destruction, right? I mean, we see a ton of youngsters participating in derivative markets, for example. So, what I usually advise to even my team members who are very young, starting out, a lot of them this is their first job, is to have a very disciplined financial goals. I mean, if discipline is very important, which is why SIPs are very important, right? So number one thing is know your financial goals and start saving towards those goals very early. I think number two thing that I see very frequently is just a lot of youngsters are not aware, right, that you have chapter 6 deductions, you have tax saving mutual funds that you could invest in and save taxes. That education is very important. A lot of youngsters think just because they are doing salary and their employers are deducting TDS, they don't have to file their income tax returns, right? I mean, TDS is just pay as you go tax concept, so that the government gets revenues on regular intervals, and so that you don't have to bear the full wrath of tax liabilities at the end of year, right? So you still need to go file your taxes. A lot of time you might have refunds, and you are missing out on those refunds if you don't file your income tax return. As per, I think in budget 2020, as per Finance Ministry stats, over 40,000 crore rupees in tax credits were left unclaimed with Government of India, right? So that's huge sum of money. That's people like you and I not realizing that somebody has deducted TDS and deposited and with our PAN, and we fail to report it in our income tax return, and hence that money is wasted, right?
Yeah.
So learning that, I think a lot of time, because we delegate taxes to someone, right? We give it to a chartered accountant, or we give it to a HR at workplace. We lose an opportunity to optimize it, right? Because I mean, somebody that you delegate it to not going to have the same interest in saving taxes like you will, because it's your hard-earned money.
Yeah.
So I think taking control, taking charge is also one very important advice I give to a lot of my team members and a lot of youngsters, a lot of customers who come to us. So there are a few basic fundamentals. We're gonna go into talk about a lot of nitty-gritties of capital gains, investing in capital markets. But I think want our friends, our audiences to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. So we've also getting some questions from the audiences, and I think we should do due justice to them, and I'll kind of pick a few of them as we kind of chat along. So one of them specifically, I think as a platform, when we talk about tax planning, a lot of our focus is around Section 80C, right? So which is, like we were talking, has a overall limit, umbrella limit of 150,000. And then there are multiple things that come under it that can be done to achieve that tax limit. But would love for you to share with everybody watching, what are the avenues beyond that?
Right.
So, beyond that Section 80C 1.5 lakh, what are the other avenues that somebody like you, me, everyone has to save on taxes?
Right. No, absolutely. So like we talked about, I think let's start from, since we are talking about deductions, let's start from Chapter 6 deduction. I mean, for a few years now, we have an option to invest in NPS, right? The new pension scheme. And for a lot of, so essentially it has two categories, category 1 and category 2. Equity is a very large, I mean, in US, we call them target dated funds, right? So NPS is more like target dated fund. Right. So if you're retiring in next 40 years, a lot of your investment right now will be towards equity allocation, right? And as you get closer to your retirement age, it will slowly and gradually become more conservative. Sure. So NPS is a great way to invest and save for the taxes, because it has an additional 50,000 rupees deduction
Right.
under Section 80 CCD, 1, 1B, and 2. So that's one very important thing that a lot of people don't know about. But then just being smart about your investments, right? So, like you talked, Samant, I mean, long-term capital gains used to be completely exempt up until a few years ago,
Right.
where late Finance Minister Arun Jaitley introduced, grandfathering scheme. But even today, capital gains up to 1 lakh is completely exempt.
Right.
Long-term capital gains up to 1 lakh. So, tax loss harvesting is another very important concept, right? So, between understanding that 1 lakh exemption limit and every year liquidating yourself in a way where you have this tax-free gains, right?
Right.
You can regain those positions as soon
Absolutely.
as you liquidate them and hence realize those gains. Tax loss harvesting is another very important concept, right? So if you have unrealized short-term losses and you have long-term gains or
Realized.
exactly realize long-term gains, then what you can do is liquidate those short-term positions, hence realize those losses and set them off against your long-term gains. I think it's also a great opportunity to rebalance your portfolio. So I think those are some of the great avenues where.
So,
But I think the bottom line is you have to be proactive.
yeah.
You need to take charge, right? You can't just rely on someone. And there are great platforms like yours now that provide a lot of this insight. But I think to act is in your control.
Well, I think thanks for that. And I'm going to take a minute to recap some of what you said, because I think it's important for us to underline bold stuff that is very, very relevant, that should not get missed out. So I think 2, 3 things that are worth highlighting is, first and foremost, I think when it comes to managing your money and your personal finances, I believe, and that is what Vishwajit is also saying here, you cannot outsource that. You can
Right.
outsource anything and everything. You can outsource your dry cleaning, you can outsource your driving, you can do whatever, but managing your money you cannot outsource. You have to take control and charge of it. Point number one. Point number two, as he talked about these 2, 3 hacks, if I may call them, uh, very important. I also want to highlight, we are not talking about evading taxes.
Right.
We are not talking about tax ki chori. We are talking about, under the prevalent tax laws, the government has given you, me, everybody, enabling laws, deductions, opportunities for us to manage our monies efficiently and pay less tax, right? So I think we are talking about highlighting those opportunities. So first he talked about was NPS. It is often India is often compared on our social security with US and Europe and so on and so forth, that they have far better social security laws and so on. 401ks have been talked about. I think NPS is our India's version of 401k, which is basically dynamic, like Vishwashi talked about, target dated. Basically what he's saying is, because it is linked to your age and it is linked to your retirement age of 60, therefore there is a defined end period or a goal in terms of time in mind.
Right.
We also talked about in the past about defined contribution and defined benefit. We were a defined benefit scheme, which was obviously a largesse from the government. It used to cost the exchequer. It was great for employees. My mom retired as a government servant. She still gets her pension. Her
Right.
pension is inflation indexed. She retired 15 years ago. Her pension goes up, after retirement. So it is good for a recipient. But if you look at it at a economy level, at a country level, government level, somebody has to foot that bill, right? So we've moved away from defined benefit to defined contribution, to say that the contribution will be defined and this will be managed efficiently, effectively, and therefore there is no cap. Also in defined benefit there was also a cap, therefore कि 8% मिलेगा तो 8 ही मिलेगा, right? But here the fact is it's a defined contribution managed efficiently, effectively, so that there is no cap. Also, if the economy does well, underlying assets do well, you can make tons of money. So NPS is a great opportunity, and the fact that it has an exclusive 50k tax break attached should not be missed. The second thing that Vishwajit talked about is, again, tax loss harvesting, tax harvesting. It's a little bit of an alien concept in India so far. It is not that well, people are not as well aware, partly to do with the fact that we've also got a very small population as a percentage of the complete population who invests. But it is something that therefore needs more education and talked about, which is to say that if you have losses in one of your portfolios, in one of your investments, and you have profits elsewhere, you could, book those losses and set them against the gains, and such therefore minimize your tax outgo. So I think a wonderful suggestion from him. The third that he also talked about is the 100K, 1 lakh exemption on long-term capital gains, which is available to you. You could again, before the financial year ends, you could smartly, book those gains, make them realized gains as long as they're less than 100K. That means that you don't have to pay taxes, and you can buy the same stocks again, maybe a day or two later, whatever, assuming no significant change in prices. If prices drop, you got another bounty on top of it, and you buy those securities back. So you've booked your profits, paid no taxes on it, and you yet maintain your exposure to those underlying assets. So brilliant, Vishwajit, for those, I think, hacks. And I just wish that some of us, if not all of us, can take advantage of this and get better off financially in managing our money, getting better with our taxes. So I'm going to come back to another question that we have, which is again very specific. And there is lots happening around, female empowerment in our country. And I think has to happen. There is lots being done on various spheres, whether it is taxation, or other facets, to ensure that they get better and bigger opportunities to take more center stage, play a larger role in both in the economy, in the household, and so on and so forth. So tell me, from a women perspective, what are the 4-5 key, I would say, tax tips or tax bounties or tax advantages that exist today that they can take advantage of?
Samant, you bring up a very important topic in the context of India, and how as I mean, if you compare us versus China, right? In China, more than 72% of urban women work, right? They are part of the workforce. If you compare India, we have much smaller portion of women participating in the labor workforce, right? Another very important thing that we very frequently see is oftentimes, the financial aspects are delegated to the because we are such a paternal system, or it's delegated to either husband or father, or a male colleague or friend. I think the same principles apply there as well. I mean, you have to take charge, control of your finances, right? There are unlike US, where male and female are two different constituencies when it comes to taxes. Unfortunately, in India, everybody is treated as general, right? Either you are senior citizen or you fall into general category. But still, there are a lot of avenues available. So, for example, if you are married, you can plan your taxes way better, where you can if you have inherited property, or if you are earning rent, including yourself, your self-occupied house property, you can do financial planning in a way that you share the tax burden, and you also maximize the tax saving, right? So to give you a simple example, rather than buying a house and one person's name, if you buy it in two persons' name, you immediately double the tax saving opportunity, because there is a cap of 2 lakh rupees of losses from self-occupied house property, right? Which is essentially interest that you pay to financial institution. So there is a cap of 2 lakh, but now since you are two people, that cap is 4 lakh rupees, right? So you can take advantage of, and those losses can help you bring down your salary income or your other taxable income. So also HUF is one great concept one great avenue available in India, and I see very few people. I mean, we on our platform less than, I would say, 0.10% HUF returns get filed, right? I do HUF. My father is a big proponent, and he made us plan it that way. But HUF is a great way where you have this entity which is your family,
Right.
and you can do tax planning in a way where you divide your income sources across multiple tax entities, and hence distribute your tax burden. So those are few important concepts to understand Indian context.
So Swapnil here has a question saying that, do we need to invest 200K in NPS to claim the extra 50K deduction, or can one invest only 50K in NPS and claim that extra deduction?
The only condition there is you can claim up to 10% of your basic salary, right? That's the only limitation. Otherwise, whatever you have invested in NPS, you can claim it. Employees' contribution can be claimed as a deduction, not employers' contribution, because as you know, NPS has two components, right? Like we talked about defined contribution. So the employee's contribution can completely be claimed as a deduction as long as it is less than 10% of your salary.
So this is very interesting. I just want to go back to that point that you made about women. And so I feel that actually in India, the way it has worked is, it is not that they have delegated their financial management to either their husbands or dad. I think the way it worked is, in the first place, they were never empowered to take charge of it. They were always kind of kept away from it, with the assumption that, we are better at doing it, and therefore they were never empowered itself. So I actually, we did a small survey at Squirrel, and it is very interesting that, first of all, our understanding has been that managing money is all about emotions. And people think it is about maths. People who are good at maths are good at managing money, but actually it is about people who can handle their emotions better are the ones who are better at handling money. And we find women are definitely better at handling their emotions, and therefore better at handling money than men. And I have no qualms about admitting it publicly. Two, I think it is very fascinating as to what money means for women. So when we did this survey, we found that especially in a lot of non-metro cities, for women, money meant financial independence. They felt that the day they are able to either make their own living or be in charge of their entire financials, they felt that they will not be dependent upon their dad or not be dependent on their husbands, and therefore they feel that that is their true independence, that they will be independent to take decisions. They feel that there is a very strong, and I kind of agree the way they put it, that there is a very strong linkage between independence and being financially independent.
True.
The day they have money in their hands, they can decide what car to buy. They can decide where the next family vacation should be. Right. So I think it has a very different connotation in their minds. And I think the good thing is that that move has started to happen. The pace may not be to our liking, but I think that move has started to happen. So yeah. I think we have enough tips and suggestions and insights for viewers to take advantage of, take charge of their financial wellness, make sure they manage their money well, make sure they don't evade taxes, but they kind of plan their taxes well, such that there again it all comes back to financial wellness. So unless there is anything that you want to now highlight or talk about specifically, we could end this session on a nice wishes for the next 2021, wishing that it brings a lot of joy, happiness, and financial wellness for everyone.
Absolutely. I think this was a fantastic session. I think Christmas well spent. Yeah. I would just like to remind everyone that along with New Year's Eve on 31st is also due date as it stands right now, to file your income tax return. So do file your income tax return, and enjoy holidays.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'm already got a lot of ideas, and I think we should do some more sessions specifically taking some sharper agendas, problem statements from consumers, and try and dispel myths about some of these taxes in our follow-up sessions in 2021. So thanks for your time today. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for spending your Christmas with us, and wishing you and the entire Quico team a very happy and prosperous 2021.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Saman.
Thanks. Thank you.